So rent prices and price increases are getting a little bit out of hand. So let's talk about it.
Landlords right now are making absolutely no sense. We are renting a one-bedroom apartment and we originally signed our lease about 2 years ago for around $2,700 a month. A year later, our rent got increased by $50. Okay, no big deal. We re-signed. And then we got our proposal letter about a month ago stating our rent would increase to almost $2,900 a month. So we sat down, talked about it, realized this was ridiculous. One bedroom apartment because we could pay an extra couple $100s and get a completely remodeled 2 bedroom apartment. We told them no thanks, we will not be renewing our lease, and now we're probably moving into a 2 bedroom sometime next week. So after we told them we will not be renewing for $2,900 a month, our exact same apartment is now on the market for almost $2,600, about $300 less. And landlords, once they have you living in their place, they realize that it's so much more convenient to just increase your rent because there's a likelihood you don't want to go through the trouble and move out to find a new place. But now, because they sent this proposal to us, they have to go through the trouble of finding a new tenant. And because they realize $2,900 is absolutely ridiculous for a 1 bedroom, they have dropped the price to $2,600. This is one of the huge reasons inflation has been going up. Rent is a large factor when it comes to the cost of living. And landlords often just increase the rent because they know it's more convenient. And before you comment, you're a realtor, you're selling houses, and you're renting a place, yes, we have talked about it multiple times. We are saving up for a single family home with a large piece of land. And as of right now, you need to make about $350,000 a year in order to afford the house that we want. We do not want to move into a condo or a townhouse. We are saving up for a larger home. And as of right now, I definitely am not making that much money. So yes, we are going to be renting in the near term, probably for another 2 or 3 years. But the situation had me thinking, maybe if you are getting an increase in your rent, maybe just say you're not going to renew, tell them you're going to be shopping for other places. Once your apartment comes back on the market, just apply for it again because we could save $300 just by staying put. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Has this happened to you and what would you do in this situation?
I think he definitely has a point by saying that landlords will prefer to raise the rent and know that they're forcing you between a rock and a hard place because now you could just pay the increase or you could go through the trouble of finding a new place and moving all of your things and paying deposit and everything. And to them, it's like, oh, well, they're just going to pay the extra instead of going through all of that trouble. And I think it is very inhumane to have that mindset, especially when it comes to people actually needing a place to live. And I understand wanting to increase rent as the years go by, but if you're making a huge jump in the rent after 1 year, it just screams, I just want to lock you into this contract where you have to pay me a certain amount of money. Even though these places are like not newly built, they are poorly constructed, they're not convenient, you don't have enough parking, all of that stuff considered, and they still think that they need to be charging so much in rent for a 1 bedroom apartment. It's crazy.
Our lease is up at the end of this month, and we just found out that our rent is going up by $250 per month. Let's talk about it. Okay, so here are the options. So obviously we can just stay, we can take the renewal, stay where we are. Now technically we can afford it, but things are tighter financially for us right now. And I don't feel like super comfortable with the increase. I know that it would put us in maybe a less than ideal financial spot, not like a dangerous spot, but just like an uncomfortable spot. The reason for that is that my partner is currently looking for a new job. They're not getting enough hours at their job. And so they're in the middle of that job search. So they're making less money than usual. And I'm also making less money than usual because I've essentially had to put my business on hold because of my book. So I'm writing a book right now. Well, it's written, but I'm editing it. I'm promoting it. It's coming out in January. So that is taking like so much of my time and energy. And it's important. Like I want to focus my time and energy on that. But because of that, I've had to take a step back from my business. So a lot of my income streams are just not happening right now. So we're both making less money. So this increase is like, it's a lot. And it doesn't feel super great. Okay, now option B is that we don't take the lease renewal and we just move to a new place. The issue is that our lease expires at the end of this month. So basically we'd have to find a place for October 1st and move in by October 1st, which is an insane turnaround. And I do not think that I can mentally handle a move right now. Like, I am in a very precarious mental state right now. I am very burnt out. I'm very stressed. I'm overwhelmed. There's just a lot going on. There's a lot on my plate right now. And I don't know if I could handle it. I also know that like I would be paying for the majority of the moving costs because my partner just isn't, like I said, they're looking for a job. They're not in a place to financially pay for those things. So that would be like an added, financial stress. And then it would also just be, it'd be really hard to find a place and then move in that time. Also, the rental market here is crazy. I know that it's very competitive and people are having a hard time finding a place. So there is a potential that we wouldn't find a place in time. And then I don't know where we would go or what would happen. Okay, another option is that we try to find a roommate. We do have another bedroom in the basement that's like our guest bedroom. There is a bathroom down there and everything, so we could rent out another bedroom or like split it like three-way roommate situation where like, me and my partner pay 2/3 and they pay 1/3 or something like that, which would obviously help with the financial burden a lot. But I think people know like once you've gone from living with a roommate to not living with a roommate, it's like hard to go back. But I mean, not that I would let that stop us. Like, I definitely would be open to having a roommate, but I think it's just about like finding the right person that's going to, fit with us and like not be super disturbing to our lifestyle because I work from home. So it has to be the right fit. And the last kind of, I guess, option is that I just start making way more money to compensate for the difference. And I could revitalize some of my business income streams to try to do that. The only issue with that is that it is taking away from the work that I'm putting towards the book. And the book has been what I've been working towards for the last 2+ years. And to kind of lose steam now and not really promote it and not really even sell the book would be a huge loss. So I have to be really careful with trying to put too much energy towards my business right now that will take away from the book. So anyways, that's where we're at. What are your thoughts? What do you think we should do? Should we take it? Should we find a new place or should we find a roommate? Give me your thoughts.
And this is exactly what the previous guy was mentioning. The rent price, it's sometimes easier for you to stay instead of having to bear the cost of moving and finding a new place and deposit and everything for the new place versus just taking the increase and staying. And this is the position that she's in, to the point where she's considering having a roommate. You shouldn't have to consider having a roommate in order to live somewhere. She lives somewhere with her partner, and they are both not making enough money to where they would feel comfortable with the increase. And yet, moving would be more expensive, and they can't afford to move either. So they're between a rock and a hard place. And I honestly feel like a roommate can be helpful in a pinch, but I would just feel uncomfortable just living with a stranger. But evidently, that is what some people have to do in order to afford a place to live, and it really should not be like that.
Besides the fact that I'm extremely struggling to pay my rent every month, you know how I realize that it's really, really bad out here? I live in the hood, okay? I live in the hood. The hood. Garbage everywhere. People's dogs not tied up. Pit bulls running around. Litter, dog poop. People riding bikes. Women of the night down the block. Like, I've been living here for a year and a half. And when I first moved in, it was 100% black, like 100% black people. And now I was just walking my dog and this white guy was like to me, dead ass. Now all of a sudden I've seen at least 4 of the apartments taken by white people. And this is like the cheapest spot in town. Also, some Hispanics have moved in as well. Like when I first moved in here, there was a white girl that lived here. But I feel like when I realized everything changed, when I seen white men moving in here, I was like, oh shit, it's bad out there. It's bad. And I'm actually scared, guys, for my lease being up in January. I'm very scared. I'm very scared for what's going to happen. That being said, please help me get to 10K. Oh my God, I got to get out the hood. Please, please, please. I'm not going to be able to afford the hood. They've already raised my rent. They tried to raise it $125. I talked them down to $75. They're probably definitely going to raise it again at that. And this is for the hood. No supermarkets, no restaurants, nothing. Like, I don't know. We're just sitting on here on social media talking about it, but it's like, what do we actually do? What are we actually doing? The election is in November and they haven't even talked about the election. They're not even like trying to get people to, oh, come out and vote and be on our side, because I feel like they know what it is. They're going to wait till the last minute to be like, all right, well, you have to pick somebody. You got to vote for Biden, since you don't want Trump. Like, no, we can't do that. We cannot do that. I know it's a little bit all over the place, this video, but it's bad out here, dude. Rent is really bad. And yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm very scared. I don't want to live in my car, not with two dogs.
I love the way she emphasizes the hood. She's really trying to make you see that she's not living in anywhere that is like top class, bougie or anything like that with all the extra amenities. And she's concerned because she's seeing other people who, if they had a choice, they would not live there. And she's starting to see them as her neighbors now. And that's where things are going. And right, she is right to be concerned.
A woman says she's exhausted by the fact that she can't afford rent even though she's cut back on eating.
There's a woman on TikTok who is going viral right now because her rent went from $1,300 to $1,800 a month with
That's
no
crazy.
warning. That is a significant amount of money for your rent to increase to the point where that would make or break somebody's ability to pay rent. Landlords and corporations are continuing to price gouge and not care about the well-being of their tenants or their customers or anybody, because it's all about money, 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 money at this point. I would recommend that this girl see if she can find a cheaper place, but with the increase of rent, is that possible? I have no idea. It is going to take a lot of work to get out of that situation. She's either going to have to get a second job if she doesn't already have one, or scrape up some funds to figure out if she can move to a cheaper place, get a bunch of roommates. I mean, if none of it is ideal. $500 could prevent you from saving money monthly too, which is something that I come on here and preach about. Taking your savings, putting it into a high yield savings or a compound interest account, watching your money grow. How are we supposed to do that when it's $500 increasing in rent? Like that's insane. I would love for people to just stop being selfish and let people live their lives.
A $500 increase in rent should be illegal. And unfortunately, for many places, there aren't enough regulations surrounding rent. And a lot of the governments also give a lot of room for the landlords to make these huge increases without any repercussions. Imagine having to find an extra $500 a month. That means she can have, savings and investments and all of that, an emergency fund and everything, because most of her income is going to rent. And the rent is just the cost of living in the space. You have all the other things about life, having a car and groceries and all of that, that can really make or break her ability to live a comfortable life. And if she's not making enough money, she's going to have to either get a job, get a roommate, or try to find somewhere else cheaper, which is going to come with the upfront cost of moving costs and deposits. It's getting crazy out here, and again, as always, try to have as many sources of income as you can, because even if you don't lose your job and even if right now you're comfortable, something like this can happen to you. And then what would you do? What would you do? Let me know in the comments what you would do if your rent increased by $500 a month.
The worst mistakes I ever made was moving into an apartment that I cannot afford. I sat down one day and did a whole bunch of calculations, and I was like, I can definitely afford to rent a one bedroom in downtown Toronto. At the time, the rent would have cost about 40% of my total income. So I was like, okay, I have 60% to do whatever I want. Wrong. Just existing and living in Toronto costs so much money. You walk out the door and you've spent $100. Got to a point where I was saying no to things like going out for dinner with my friends, going on weekend trips, because the buffer room that I had in between paying my rent and the money I had left over was like barely a couple $100. And if I had any sort of emergency that I needed money for, I just wouldn't have been able to do it. But while I could afford my actual apartment and the rent, I really could not do anything else, stay inside. Looking back, I'm in a completely different place financially. I'm still living in the same apartment. I remember really wanting to just like keep up with the lifestyle inflation and trying my best to just like enjoy Toronto. Grateful to be in a position where TikTok has completely changed my financial situation. But if I could go back again, I would say live below your means at all times and don't fall into the trap of wanting a cool lifestyle. be able to save money, be able to invest more money, be able to go on like trips to Europe and things like that. And the lesson that I've learned is that even though my income now has increased significantly, I am not going to let my lifestyle inflate with the way that my income has grown. I'm very thankful that I'm in a place now where I could easily afford a new designer bag or moving into a bigger condo than just a one bedroom. But being financially responsible and looking to the future means thinking ahead. All that additional income that I'm making does not mean that I'm going to increase my expenses. So if you're a young person that's easily influenced and you want the lifestyle that you see everywhere online, just think twice about it because it's not always amazing and not always great.
That is very well said. And I like that she learned her lesson and she is able to make better financial decisions moving forward. Do not subscribe to lifestyle inflation. If you're making more, it means you should be saving and investing more, not trying to spend more to look cool.
Rent due tomorrow. How much is y'all rent? In 2025, how much are y'all paying for rent? Everybody already knows that I went viral last year off my rent being off. But if I was to, let's just say, give back and do a thing, pay somebody's rent, how much is y'all rent? Hands down, even though I think a lot of people are paying a crap ton of money on car insurance and car notes, I still think rent and mortgages are taking it when it comes to the greatest extent that people are paying. It's got to be living. It's got to be living. And I mean, if I was to just do a thing, I just want to know what's going to be the bill that I should shoot for. Is it going to be rent? Is it going to be, but more than likely, it's going to be rent. So how much y'all paying? And for the people that got a mortgage, how much is your mortgage and what are you getting for that mortgage? You got a 1 bedroom, you got a 2 bedroom house. What are you getting for what you're paying? Because honestly, it's given we're not getting much of a bang for our buck. It's giving we blacking out all these other days, but why can't we black out rent now?
So I'm checking out some of the comments. The first comment says $0 because I'm still in my mama's house. And that is right. If you can stay at home and save your coin. Someone says $840, first ever living without a man. A little nervous, but trusting God through the process. Someone else says $2,100 for a one bedroom. Someone says $2,000 for a one bedroom, less than 650 square feet in California. Place so small I can cook from the couch. Someone else says $1,079.50 mortgage, 3 bedroom, 2.5 bath townhouse, and this is in Charlotte, North Carolina. I don't think that's bad. That doesn't sound bad to me. That sounds reasonable. $2,450 for a 3 bedroom. I cry every month. Wow. Someone else says $2,700 and they make me pay utilities like electric, water, sewer, trash with the rent. So it runs me about $3,150 every month. Wow. Someone says $1,055. I'm in Atlanta. Someone said 750 mortgage, 3 bedroom, 1 bath. That's good. Also depends on where you live. Someone else says $2,700. I hate New York City. Someone else says 1,500 rent for 1 bedroom and 1 bathroom. Oh, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. Wow.
I just got told that my rent is going up by $100 a week. I live alone and it already went up by $50 what feels like 6 months ago when I checked. And I basically have 2 weeks to figure out what I'm doing. And I just don't even know what to do. Like, obviously, everyone is going through this rental crisis at the moment, but I don't understand. I swear, only a few months ago, they were complaining about how there's too many apartments in Brisbane. But yet, why is there not one single apartment for someone who just wants to live on their own and have a car park? Why is that so impossible? And like, I checked the average salary for Brisbane, and my salary is a little bit higher than that. And even I can't find somewhere that's going to be even slightly livable after paying tax and HECS. Anyway, just wanted to see how we're all doing. If anyone else is in the same boat, because I'm so angry. I've lived here for 2 years in the same apartment. And I love living here, and the thought of leaving is really depressing. So, cool.
Rent is so expensive that minimum wage workers need 3 roommates or 4 jobs to afford a 2 bedroom apartment. In fact, there's not a single state in America where a minimum wage worker that's full-time can afford a 2 bedroom apartment. So look at this for example. If you live in Alabama where the minimum wage is $7.25 an hour, you'd have to work 90 hours a week to afford a 2 bedroom.
Now, you would need to work 74 hours a week to afford the average one-bedroom apartment in Alabama at the minimum wage. So someone explain to me why we're pretending that workers are the problem when it's the corporations that are arbitrarily pushing up prices on rent, food, laying off workers, all to maximize their profits. Like, how is this system that we're currently living in sustainable?
I've said it before, man. This system is created to make people rich and the rest of us poor if we don't catch on to what's going on and find a way to take ourselves out of the matrix, basically. Because rent prices, food prices, the whole system that we call the economy was created by man. And so, if the economy is out of control, would it not then seem fair to say that it's out of control because of man as well? If you're working minimum wage and you cannot afford an average one bedroom, one bathroom as a singular person, you cannot work minimum wage and afford a one bedroom, one bathroom. That means the system is against you. The system is against us in such a way where you're telling me that I need to have a roommate or I need to have multiple jobs in order to afford a roof over my head? No. And I think we need to just stop looking to the government for help, and we need to realize that it is the governments and the world leaders and everyone who came up with the system and they're running the system. The housing market, rent prices, all of these hikes that's going up every year, but yet people are getting laid off right now. People are finding it hard to find jobs. There are lots of ghost jobs. There are a lot of job scams. So much is happening. But yet the government's trying to pretend that we're not in a recession and things are not bad right now. And they're talking about how many jobs they're creating. You're creating jobs that people are taking as second and third jobs just to feed their families. Do not give yourself a pat on the back.
So my rent here in Chicago is going to go up 9% if I decide to renew my lease for the following 12 months. Currently, I have a lease that goes from June 1st to June 1st, and they already sent me the renewal lease, and I just have to decide by late March. So they sent it yesterday, and I didn't look through the whole contract because I didn't have time. And then I looked at the numbers today, and I calculated, and yeah, it was 9%, which is really high. I mean, not a lot of people are kind of making 9% more in their salary each year. I like this apartment. I like the location, but 9%, I'm going to have to just look at either Zillow or apartments.com just to see if there are any other better options.
Montreal tenants are facing the highest rent hike in over 30 years, and the city is warning them to think twice before moving. In January, the rental board approved an average increase of 5.9%, which is the biggest single-year rent hike in the last 30 years. So for a tenant paying $1,000 a month, that's an extra $708 that year. And that's just for tenants that want to stay in the same apartment. The CMHC, so the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation, said that for 2024, the average rent increase was much higher for apartments that turned over to new tenants. Actually, it was 18.7% compared to those leases that were renewed. They were renewed for 4.7% increase. For those whose leases renew July 1st, landlords have to send notice by the end of March. Tenants will then have a month to renegotiate that increase. Tenants can refuse rent hikes and try to negotiate with the landlord. However, if you cannot come to an agreement, the landlord is open to file with the rental board, who will then set the rent themselves. The city is saying that if you decide to move, start looking now because affordable housing is in short supply in the city.
Isn't it funny though that rent is increasing and the government can sign off on how much rent should increase, but there's no sign off on how much companies, whether public or private, need to increase the pay of the workers? Do you see that if we follow this system, we're constantly going to be pushed into can't afford rent, can't afford food, can't afford to feed our families, and in a state of despair? Food is increasing, housing is increasing, people are finding it hard to find jobs, and jobs are not increasing their wages. Eventually, something has got to give. And as always, I will advocate have something coming in on the side, have some form of second income. It could possibly save your family and your financial life. Go ahead and share your thoughts in the comment section below. As always, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.